On This Week in Enterprise Tech, we've got meteors, zombies, and sun-displacing coastal crust magma. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. TWiT on the set.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for This Week in Enterprise Tech is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is TWiT, This Week in Enterprise Tech, Episode 22, recorded December 10, 2012. Take the gun, leave the Spork. This episode of TWiT is brought to you by Lantronix, maker of the xPrint server. Print from your iPad, iPhone, or any iOS device to virtually any printer. For more information, visit xprintserver.com/twit and use the code HOLIDAY2012 to receive 20% off your order. And by RingCentral. We do everything in the cloud. That's why I love my cloud-based phone system by RingCentral. Zero startup costs, and RingCentral is $20 per month per user. Try it now with a 30-day risk-free trial and buy one desk phone and get a second phone free, up to 20 phones. Call 800-543-9980 or visit ringcentral.com and use promo code TWiT. And by GoToMeeting with HD Faces by Citrix, the powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate with colleagues and clients from anywhere. You can share the same screen and see each other face-to-face with HD video conferencing, even from an iPad. Sign up for your 30-day free trial today. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and use promo code ENTERPRISE. Welcome to TWiT, This Week in Enterprise Tech. It's the show dedicated to the enterprise professional, the IT pro, and the geek who just wants to know how the world is connected. I'm your host, Father Robert Ballecer, the digital Jesuit, your guide to all things in the enterprise. And I've got an absolutely packed panel today, starting with Mr. Brian Chee from ThinLinks. Brian, how is Hawaii treating you?
Hawaii is wonderful, and I love living here.
Speaking of loving the life of the living there, we've also got Curtis Franklin, who currently is not in Florida. Curtis, where are you?
I am coming to this episode of TWiT from the 23rd floor of the Hilton Hotel in beautiful Austin, Texas. I'm here to cover Dell World this week. It kicks off tomorrow morning, and I'm just enjoying the icy cold weather here in beautiful Austin today.
The man who keeps us honest is next, Mr. Oliver Rist of InfoWorld. He's sometimes grumpy, but we love him anyways because he makes us speak the truth. Oliver, how are things where you are? Oh, okay. Could we try that again without the mute? Yes.
My bad. Rainy. They're rainy again, and they're going to stay rainy.
And they
again. I just want people to know that for a mid-6-level salary and a generous relocation package, you can have all this.
Okay, well,
on the East Coast.
We'll bring that back up later. I'm sure that'll be a coming topic. But before we do that, I want to introduce our last panelist, a man who many of you know and love from PC Per, Mr. Allyn Malventano. Allyn, you rushed back to your studio to be able to do this episode of TWiT. Thank you so very much. What's been going on? It's been a few months since we last had you on the show.
Just writing reviews, doing the PC Per thing, as usual.
And just before the show, you were showing us your new favorite SSD, if you just want to hold that up really quickly. So,
yeah, it's current new favorite, OCZ Vector.
Nice, nice.
Last review I did, actually.
Now,
I'm actually I'm right next to Curtis, I think.
Oh.
I'm in San Antonio.
Curtis, you should have driven over.
Yeah.
If only I'd known.
Okay. Now, I didn't bring you all together just because I like your company, but because we're going to talk about a very somber topic, and that is the end of the world. That's right. We know, ladies and gentlemen, December 21st, 2012, the Mayan calendar comes to an end, and with it, the universe. And so we thought naturally we should do a little episode on the things that us, geeks, would have in our go bag. What are the things that we want, the pieces of tech that we would like to ride out Armageddon, the apocalypse, the end of the world? Let's start with you, Brian. Now, your first product is something that I think everyone is going to want in those first couple of minutes of the apocalypse. You want to explain what it is?
Basically, it's just an emergency phone. It's got an Energizer lithium battery in it, so it should have about a 15-year lifespan, shelf life, if you are to believe Energizer. But the most important thing is it's cheap, it's easy, it's sealed in a dry bag, and it even has a little doodad in there so you can pop the micro SIM out of your iPhone and drop it into the micro SIM adapter to go into a full SIM size slot. The really, really cool thing about this is shelf life, and in the end of the world, it's going to be raining like the dickens. So your phone's going to be wet. Get into the data center, light it back up, get back in touch with the rest of the world.
One of the cool things I like about this device, because you sent me the link earlier, was that, well, it's not a smartphone, so it doesn't drain power like a smartphone. We've become accustomed to having to plug our phones back in every day, or even more frequently, depending on the size of the screen and the processor, how much we use it. This really is a phone designed just for emergencies. It's designed just to keep you in touch when the end times are near. It's designed, again, to have that incredible shelf life, so you don't have to worry about it being dead when you pull it off the shelf and then figure out where you're going to have to plug this in, since, of course, the grid will be gone with it. So, yeah, this is definitely something I think geeks will flock to as something you have at the bottom of your go bag. Now, the very first item that I'm going to have in my go bag has to deal with power, because, of course, unless you have a way to power all the gadgets and gizmos, well, the go bag is going to be pretty useless. And so the one I chose was the PowerFilm F15 60-watt flexible foldable solar power charger. This is something I saw at CES about 3 years ago. It uses a series of flexible silicon cells. The nice thing about this is that it's pretty much unbreakable. Unless you actually fold it at a 180 degree, it's not going to crack any of the cells. Now, of course, it means that the efficiencies go down. It doesn't produce as much power as say, a solid crystalline structure, but it does make it lighter, it does make it more durable, and it does make it spreadable, which means that you could put it out over the wreckage of your car or a house or just anywhere that it's going to get a little juice for you to put some power back into your devices. Now, as I mentioned, it's about 60 watts. It's 4 pounds. It's flexible. It's foldable. And right now, you can get these units for about $700. I know that's a lot, but you can also get a 28-watt unit for about $200 to $300. Again, not something that I would use on an average basis, but something that would definitely go in my go bag because I'm going to be looking for alternate sources of power. Now, Curtis, your first gadget in your go bag is not necessarily an end times thing. It's more of a disaster preparedness thing. You want to tell me a little bit about it?
It is. You know, when we think about disasters, we think about limited resources. If you have, say, one connection to what's left of the internet, you can share it with this little thing. It's a Zyxel MW102 travel router. That big, you plug into it, it powers off a USB dongle and works just beautifully. You can share one connection with as many people as you'd like. Obviously, it's not going to do as good a job sharing with a huge crowd as a big AP is going to do, but it really does do a fine little job, fits into even the smallest go bag, and is part of my kit.
Yeah, I like that because, again, maybe it's not going to help so much if the Earth is hit by a meteor or if suddenly the basic particles of physics start heating up the core of the planet. But in the case of something like Sandy, where that's pretty much the only way you're going to get access to your device, if you could share it with a couple of neighbors, maybe it just keeps you from getting torn apart by the masses. Let's go to you, Allyn. You've got, well, something a bit more tactical. What is this?
Actually, this is just, I've had this thing for about 10 years now. Surefire makes a whole series of flashlights that are all hard anodized aluminum. This one is a LED. It's like a 5-watt LED light. And since it's an LED, it's really efficient. So the battery on this guy, if you put it in full power mode, it's actually like you can rotate the bezel on it and you can lower or raise the brightness. So it's actually efficient. You can use it as a torch. You can turn the brightness all the way down. It'll run for like 8 hours. or so on the lowest brightness, or it'll run for only like a half an hour if you're trying to just blind people with it, I suppose. But I think this would be a better way to go than trying to use what's left of your cell phone or your laptop battery to try to light it with the screen so that you're seeing what you're doing at night. Better to use the proper tool, I guess.
Now, Allyn, I work with a survivalist back in Washington, D.C., and I also have a tactical torch, which is it's kind of cool. It's got a little spike at the end. But he told me he doesn't consider it a tactical flashlight unless I could actually bash a zombie over the head with it and defend myself. Could I do that with your tactical flashlight?
I don't know. It is kind of heavy. Maybe. It's a little small. They make bigger models.
So it really depends on what kind of batteries you put in that. I mean, if you...
Yeah, they have models of these things that you put like 5 or 6 D-cell batteries in. That pretty much makes it into a weapon.
Now, the next gadget we have from Mr. Oliver Rist, it's a little bit unique because he has a different way of writing out the apocalypse. Oliver, you want to tell us what you brought?
Well, since you seem to be defining the apocalypse in a rather vague way, I've decided to specify the zombie apocalypse. That's how I see it happening in 2013. So I'll be living with you, Padre, and taking my power from your wonderful generator and other power gadgets. And I want my brand new Nokia Lumia 920 phone that I just got 2 days ago. Reason I want it is I got it 2 days ago and I have not as yet charged it, so I may not have to bother you for power all that much. And 2, I don't want my iPad, and this seems to do everything my iPad does, and it's less Apple and more a real company.
Now, we're not going to get into a religious debate because, of course, that's always productive about Apple or Microsoft or Android. But I will say this about the review unit I've seen of the 920. You're right. It absolutely sips power. It is the most frugal current generation smartphone that I know of. It seems pretty durable, pretty tough. I actually dropped the review unit once, and the guy who was showing it to me didn't even wince. And it does enough where if I just needed information, basic information on a device that I carry with me, it seems to do quite well. That's sort of the criteria you're using for your Go bag, right?
I'm using that and the fact that since you were just showing off a different device that I guess we'll get to later, that's running on Windows 8, I got a lot of cool apps on it, and I know there's not that many yet, but as that grows, I expect to see everything I can do on the iPad happen here, and I don't do a lot on my iPad, so I think that's actually already the case.
All right, so I want to throw something at the panelists here. I did not mention this before the show, and that is before we end this round of our Gadget Go Bag, let's say there were only 3 gadgets of the 5 we just mentioned that you could actually put into your Go Bag. Which ones would you choose? Let's start with you, Cheebert. Looking at the list, which 3 would you definitely want in your Go Bag?
Definitely put a ham radio. I definitely put a photovoltaic charging system. And, I don't know. The third one's kind of tough. Maybe some sort of big cutting instrument. Maybe a machete or something. So I like Oliver's jetpack. Wow, get away from the zombies.
Wait, now you're getting ahead of us.
Hey, we haven't gotten there.
We haven't gotten there. You got to choose between the 5 that were just mentioned, Cheebert. You're breaking the rules here.
See, dude, you weren't clear there. Okay, of those 5, I think I'd probably go with your solar panel.
Okay, that's 1. You get 2 more.
I like my emergency phone. I like Allyn's flashlight.
All right. Curtis, what about you? What are your 3 picks out of the 5?
Well, I think the 5 things we've looked at so far, I'd probably choose your power film, Allyn's light, and I'm guessing I would go with Cheebert's emergency phone. Those seem to be the 3 most immediately practical things on the list.
All right. And what about you? Hopefully not sounding like screechy chalk fingernails. Allyn, what would you choose?
Definitely the solar panel and probably the phone and, of course, my flashlight.
Your flashlight. Okay. And Oliver, you get the last word from the panelists.
I'll go with the solar panel. I'd like to say the flashlight, but for the zombie apocalypse, I think you're right. It's not big enough. So another form of that. And I don't know why you guys are going with the emergency phone, mainly because whichever phone provider you're going to get for that is going to make you pay for another account. So I would say my phone is the much better choice.
I'm not going to say anything else other than I would also take the 920 just because if I'm stuck with a phone, I want to be able to play a couple of games. Zombie apocalypse for the win. Now, it wasn't mentioned in this first round of gadgets, but there are a lot of people who use iOS devices. It could be iPad, it could be iPhone, it could be an iPod Touch, and they've become popular, especially in the BYOD world. Now, the problem becomes what happens when you want to print. Now, we would like to think that we've gone past printing, that we have everything electronic, but there is some times, some instances in which we need a hard copy. You need to print a boarding pass. You need to print a document. You need to print something that you're going to hand to someone else, and you don't want to give them your iPad. Now, there are a couple of ways that you could do that. You could fudge a solution by, say, emailing yourself whatever it is that you need printed, emailing an attachment, a PDF, and then going to a computer actually connected to a printer in order to print, but that kind of defeats the purpose of having this mobile device ecosystem. Now, you could do that, or you could try the xPrint server from Lantronix. Now, I have personally used this device, and I found it to be just oodles and oodles above every other solution that I've seen in this class. The xPrint server prints directly from iOS. There are no apps to buy. There's no software to load. It supports more than 4,000 of the most popular printers currently on the market, and above that, setup is easy. You see, the xPrint server automatically discovers the available printers and makes them usable by your iOS device. They don't even have to be network printers. If they're available on your network, the xPrint server finds them and makes them talk the same language as your iOS device. Now, for a more advanced solution, it also includes a configuration menu so that you can customize your xPrint server according to your network needs. That means that if you're a home user, if you're someone who just wants to get your iPad printing, you plug it in and you go. But it also has the ability to be configured to make it more usable by those among us who are, let's just say, more network geeky. A single xPrint server supports multiple printers and virtually unlimited iOS devices. The Home Edition is $99 and supports up to 8 USB and 2 network printers, while the Network Edition is $199 and supports an unlimited number of network printers. It will even work with multifunction printers, which means that's yet another gadget or gizmo that you can get off your desk because you don't have to get one that supports AirPrint. You don't have to get one that supports a USB printer. You don't have to get one that has the multifunction. You can get a single unit and your xPrint server, and you're good to go. Now, here's what I want you to do. I would like you to go to xprintserver.com/twit for more information and perhaps to buy. And we've got a special offer for you for the month of December. You use the holiday code HOLIDAY2012 to receive 20% off your offer. Remember, visit xprintserver.com/twit and at the checkout, enter the code HOLIDAY2012. We thank Lantronix for their support of This Week in Enterprise Tech. Now let's get back to the end of the world because we know Armageddon's not going to wait. Chee, we're back to you for round 2. What is the piece of gear that you would like to stuff in your go bag?
Okay. Hey, I love the idea of photovoltaics. I love the fact that it's sustainable, and if the power grid is down, I still want to be able to go and get the most calories out of my freezer and refrigerator. So to that end, Goal Zero has a nice power generation kit on 1,250 watts. It's called the Yeti. And it actually has a cute little tripod where you can actually take 4 photovoltaic, high efficiency photovoltaic cells and start charging things up. So the cool thing about it is it'll run a full-size fridge for 2 to 4 days. It'll run a deep freezer for 8 days. You know, heck, you can run all kinds of stuff. It's got 12 volts and 5 volts. And it also has a inverter in there so you can run your AC appliances. Now, the really nice thing about this whole thing is it's a kit. If you're not electrically inclined and you don't want to build your own, that's a pretty nice system. In fact, Padre actually has some pictures from CES. Now, one of the other things that we're going to go through eventually is, those photovoltaic panels are still really expensive. So if I'm prepping for it, I can hit eBay and buy cracked photovoltaic cells really, really cheap. They're under $1 a piece, and they're 1.8 watts each. www.greenpowerscience.com/solarpanels.html has the whole thing, the whole video on how to put your own together. It's lots of fun. I'm planning on building some so I can run things like yard lights, pool pumps, things like that. I want to have a bank of batteries for just in case. So instead of having to fight the lines that Hawaii typically gets when a hurricane comes in, I want to be able to go and just open up the panels, charge up my thing, and keep my fridge going so that I can eat the food instead of having to throw it away once it spoils.
And that's something that a lot of end-of-the-world survivalists have figured out for a while, which is you want to be able to get every single bit of energy for your body out of the resources that you already have before you start scrounging. I like the fact that you've chosen a gadget, although it won't really fit in a go bag. The thing weighs 100 pounds. But you've chosen a gadget that increases value of the things you already have. Now, I did check this out at the last CES. I went to the Goal Zero booth, and I have to say the Yeti was one of the coolest things I saw there. It's about the size of a cooler. It can be charged from multiple sources. If you have AC power, sure. If you've got DC power, let's say a car, you can charge it off of that. Or solar. It's got standard sockets so that you can daisy chain a bunch of solar panels together and get a full day out of power out of a single charge. It also supports a tip system, so you can charge your USB devices, you can charge your laptops. It outputs AC, it outputs DC. It's one of these things that's designed to sort of be in the center of your disaster preparedness kit. Now, again, I think the only big problem there is the thing is heavy. At 100 pounds, you're probably not going to be strapping it onto your back. So that's where my second gadget comes into play, and that's this. This is the Energizer XP18000. This little unit actually has 18 amp hours of power. Now, I know Cheebert uses this. I can't remember if Oliver had a unit like this, but it has a battery chemistry that lasts for an hour without having to be recharged. So, again, that's nice. You can keep it in the cupboard, and when you get it, it will be fresh. It also has a tip system here, so it will support your laptop. It will support a USB device. It will support any 12-volt devices. And Energizer does have a policy right now called Tips for Life, where you can get 2 tips for free for as long as you own the product. So as you get new devices, you'll be able to plug those new devices into the power pack. Now, the really cool thing about this is if you have a tinkerer's soul, you can modify the plug either here on the battery pack or on your laptop adapter so that this can charge from the same adapter that you use to power up your laptop. Again, that eliminates one more thing. I've been carrying this thing with me for the better part of 2 years, and I found that it becomes a center of my mobile rig. This can add, I believe, 10 hours of life to my S7 notebook. It can run my smartphone for over 2 weeks, and it can provide USB or 12-volt power to a set of LED lights for about a week, which makes this something that does actually fit in my go bag. Cheebert, you've been using an XP18000 too, yes?
You bet. To answer TV Begone, TV's Egon. In order to support my MacBook Air, I get a MagSafe to cigarette lighter adapter, and then I bought the XPAL adapter to go to a cigarette lighter, so that way I can charge up my Mac also.
Right. Not the most efficient use of the power because you are going through a conversion, but if you are a Mac user, yes, there is a way to get power from this into your MacBook. You have to be a little imaginative. So the first 2 products we've had in this round were about power. Curtis, yours is about communications.
If I am bugging out, one of the things that I'm going to carry with me is at least one ham radio. The fact is, what I have chosen for my most compact bug-out kit is a couple of generations old because I have 4 of them. It's the ICOM Q7A. I sent in a link for the latest version of the same kind of thing, the ID31A, which is frankly much better. It's got a little more power. It's submersible. It slices, dices, it walks the dog. The big thing is on these, they will transmit on UHF and VHF, and they will receive pretty much anything that you can legally receive, and with a little bit of modification, even some stuff that you can't legally receive. It's a good package. Now, obviously, if you've got more space, I mean, I've got for my deployment kit, I've got my big brick 2-meter handheld that puts out 5 watts, and I've got a dozen batteries for it. But for the lightest weight bug out kit, something like the little ID31A is a great addition.
I think we may have lost him. We may want to kill Curtis's video just to make sure that we can get his audio properly. But I do love the fact that at least one of us chose a ham setup, a UHF setup, because yeah, if we're talking about end times, if we're talking about Armageddon, that's a great device to have in your go bag because it makes sure that you can receive emergency broadcasts, or at the very minimum to find out if there's actually life left on the planet other than you. Allyn, let's go to you because you've actually got a little group of gadgets that you put together. What's your next entry for your go bag?
Yeah, I'm sort of a minimalist just when I travel in general, just anywhere, be it apocalypse or not. So this is actually like the sum total of everything that I carry with me.
Show off.
So I've got, no, it's just, no, not really. It's a ZenBook, it's an iPad mini, it's an iPhone, and it's, I can never pronounce these guys right. Skosh, I believe. It's sort of the mini version of your power cell, except this one's only 5 amp hours, 5,000 milliamp hours worth of juice. But I figure that's probably enough to get me just wherever to the next.
Is there some
place.
sort of Zen reasoning why you have that combination? So you've got the iPhone 5, you've got an iPad mini, you've got your ZenBook, and you've got the Skosh.
I just migrate towards the smaller devices. I don't like carrying big stuff, right? Or heavy stuff. So, I mean, this really is just like, you know, you put all that in the backpack, you almost don't even notice it's there. So I have much more room for, you know, more important things like food and water and, you know, that kind of stuff. So I can survive long enough to use that technology.
I have a feeling that if we do get to the end times and, you know, that's what we've got in our go bags, we're probably not going to be too worried about the whole Android versus iOS versus Microsoft debate.
Yeah, I'm just going to use what I got.
Okay. Now, Oliver, always being eclectic, you've got something a little different. You are not so worried about food or shelter. You've got something else in your list for the go bag.
Yeah, Brian introduced me to this, and I bought it the same day. I had massive gadget envy. It's the iPod Nano on a watch, and the reason that's not in my go bag, when the zombies are chasing me, this thing is strapped to my wrist, right? Once I barricade myself, just like you, I'm going to be a little bored. So, this, you know, there's about 33, I think something like 30 hours of song on this, of songs on it. So at least as far as audio goes, I'll be entertained.
Okay, I like that. All right, so same question to the entire panel. We're going to do the same thing. We've got 5 gadgets or 5 sets of gadgets because Allyn kind of cheated here a little bit. Now, if you could only take 3 in your go bag, which 3 would you take? I'm going to go backwards. Oliver, let's start with you. We've got the full-size 100-pound Yeti. We've got the XP 18000. We've got Curtis's ham radio. We've got Allyn's Group O gadgets, and we've got your iPad Nano watch. What are the 3 that you take?
I will definitely take the Energizer because I know I can't run around with Brian's thing. The zombies will catch me. I will take the ham radio because that way I can call for help when I'm barricaded and the zombies are knocking on the door. And I will take my iPod Nano.
Nice. I like it. Allyn, off to you. So you've got your choice. I know you're gonna choose your own setup here, but
I'm gonna have my pack of gadgets. I like Oliver's iPod Nano idea. You can listen to the tunes while running from the zombies simultaneously. That's a pretty good one. And yeah, I'm gonna go with the Energizer because that other thing is just too heavy. Unless I want to swing it from a very heavy rope and hit zombies with it. I mean, maybe the Yeti would be good for that, but no, I'll stick with the Energizer just for some extra juice, even above what I already have.
that's not actually a bad idea. You put some spikes on that and a rope, and you've got a decent flail that can also power your gadgets. Cheever, they're hating on the Yeti. So what are you going to put in your go bag?
Well, you know, I don't think I'd take the Yeti in a go bag, but that would be running the fridge, and I'd go and eat through the fridge first. And then probably because, you know, in Hawaii, I've got a lot of windows and so forth, the zombies are going to see me. So I'm probably not going to take that. So I own the XP 18000 now. I'd probably take that. I've actually got a smaller version of that ICOM radio already. And, I carry an iPod Nano watch. So I guess that's my 3.
And I believe we have lost Curtis. So he loses his... Yeah, we're trying to get him back. He loses his vote for this round, so I'm going to take it instead. I'm going to say I'm taking my XP 18000. I have to take the ham radio just because I believe that that's an important communications method. And you know what? Just for funsies, I'm going to take Oliver's iPad Nano watch just in case it is a zombie apocalypse.
That's right, baby.
Curtis, did Curtis just make it back? Let's find out.
I do seem to be back.
Okay, Curtis. So now you've got a choice. It's the same thing, same choice as before. We've got 5 gadgets. We've got the Yeti, the 100-pound power pack. We've got the XP 18000. We've got your ham radio. We've got Allyn's Group O gadgets, and we have Oliver's iPad Nano watch. What 3 gadgets do you put in your go bag?
All right, I have an important question to ask before I answer that question. Does my go bag include the bed of my pickup truck?
If you deem so, then yes, it does. But remember, if the zombies gets caught up in your tires, you're going to have to abandon that truck.
Well, even so, I think what I'm going to have to go with then is my ham radio. I will take Cheebert's Mighty Big Yeti, and good heavens, I'm going to go with your Energizer XP 18000. Why not?
For when you have to abandon the truck and the
For
Yeti.
when you have to abandon, you can keep going. I will have cobbled up a tip to help keep powering that ham radio. We will communicate until the bitter end.
All right, that's the end of round 2. And in between rounds, I like to talk about the folks who just, let us do our thing. And that's RingCentral. You see, when the brick house was built, they decided that they wanted a phone system that wasn't a traditional PBX. They didn't want wires everywhere. They didn't want a lot of hardware in the basement. They didn't want a difficult-to-program system that required an engineer to come over every single time they wanted to make a change in the way that the phone tree works. And so when Russell, the IT guy, came over to Leo and told him that we could have a cloud-based phone system, well, it was a no-brainer. We love RingCentral. There are 0 startup costs. There's no PBX hardware to install or maintain. RingCentral allows us to customize all of our call handling. Our producers get their voicemail in their email, and we can even get all of our fax messages on our smartphones. Now, we have a special offer for our TWiT listeners. RingCentral offers an all-inclusive pricing, as low as $20 per month per user. You can start right now with a 30-day risk-free trial, and when you buy 1 desk phone, you get a second phone free up to 20 phones. So call this number designated for my listeners. That's 800-543-9980. That's 800-543-9980. One more time for the end of the world, 800-543-9980. Or you can also go to ringcentral.com and use the promo code TWiT. We thank RingCentral for their support of This Week in Enterprise Tech. Now on to round 3 of the ever-important Go Bag to survive the end of the world. Cheebert, we're going back to you, and you've got something that it's getting a little bit away from the standard tech because you're thinking about food now. What is this?
Hey, I'm from Hawaii. I always think about food. Anyway, I actually own this. It was on the startup campaign for them, and I actually plunked down my money almost a full year ago, and I got my BioLite stove. Now, the really cool thing about this product is that they are, it's a swirl stove. It actually has a little battery in it, and actually pumps air to make the burn considerably more efficient. So that means in the zombie apocalypse, I can cook indoors without this big cloud of smoke that's going to give away my position. Now, the intent of this was that the BioLite people wanted to use the camp stove to fund larger stoves so that third world countries that have to have wood burning cook stoves can cook their meals and not smoke out the entire hut. So they can actually reduce the amount of smoke by almost 95%. And it's made a really, really big difference in places like Southern Africa. So my BioLite stove is actually in my Go kit, and it's a wonderful thing. And oh, by the way, it will charge your USB devices.
Okay, that's cool. I remember you mentioning this once. How does that do that? It's just what, a thermocouple?
Yeah, there's a thermocouple. If you see the picture that's looking straight down at the top, there's actually a copper pipe that goes in. Yeah, there it goes. You can kind of see the copper pipe that goes into that orange doodad. That orange doodad has the thermocouple in it, and that powers the fan. Now, depending on how high the fire is, it produces more electricity. So you start off with just a little bit of sticks and so forth, get it running, and then you can put larger stuff in there. And, you know, it's really super light. Once you charge it up, it will actually last quite a while. And it will boil a pot of water in a big fat hurry.
Okay, Chee, now you've got me impressed. This is a gadget that I want to put on before you buy. I can keep warm, I can cook my food, I can maybe sanitize a few items, boil some water, and charge my gadgets. Yeah, I'm pretty much sold. Now, wait, do you have a retail on that, or is that available retail yet?
It is available retail. It's $149. And the good thing about it is that $149 also goes towards making the full-size stoves for third world nations.
Not bad. I'm not going to lie and say that I'm going to try it backpacking. More likely, I'm going to try it behind my office building just because it's cool. But I could see it as both a backpacking tool and an end-of-the-world item that you must have in your go bag. Let's go to my third round. Now, this is admittedly super, super geeky. I debated whether or not I wanted to put this in the go bag because this is completely useless if we're talking about real Armageddon, where the planet has pretty much ended. But if we're talking about zombie apocalypse, if we're talking about disaster preparedness, let's say Sandy rolls in and destroys my data center, this is actually very cool. This is a Xeris array and a Wi-Fi phone from Polycom. Now, the reason why I like this is because I've reprogrammed this array to act as the back end for up to 40 of these phones, which operate on 802.11a and b. That's 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. Now, the cool thing about this system is it can be point-to-point. So this essentially, in times of emergency, will act as a walkie-talkie. It allows me to do the push-to-talk thing. It allows me to call individuals, setting up my own little telecom area. Also, if I do have access to any information I want to share, I can do it over the array. Out to a 3-mile radius is what I've tested this out to. Now, here's the part that it kind of depends on exactly how much of the world is destroyed. If this is a first responder situation, I can tie this into the existing telco system, into a POTS line or a digital trunk line, and I can tie my emergency phones into the actual worldwide phone system. So again, you know, it really depends on a number of things. Is there a place where you can mount this? Is there a system that you can tie into? But I can actually power this array with this battery for about 24 hours, which makes this a really cool first responder, get some communication, get some emergency information system for people who want to survive everything from the zombie apocalypse to, well, a meteor destroying the crust. Cheebert, I know you've played with SpectraLink phones before. Have you played with that kind of application at all, sort of rapid deployment?
Actually, I designed a system based actually on GSM, but Wi-Fi makes more sense today. But I designed one for NATO, and I'm not sure if they actually used it, but it's a series of vans where you just crank up the cell tower and use GSM. I actually had a big giant stock of GSM chips so that you could reprogram all the different phones. So it was a very early effort for NATO BYOD. But yeah, today I'd probably use a Xeris array in a waterproof housing and crank that up on a lightweight tower.
You know, during the heyday of the popularity of microcells, I toyed with the idea of custom programming some microcells to utilize an array like this to then hand off to the GSM network. Because, of course, if there's an apocalypse, there's no longer any regulation and I can do anything I want, which would actually make this system work with existing cell phones. But again, we're just going to have to wait for the apocalypse before we can test that out. Curtis, back to you. You've got, well, an interesting device. I'm not sure why this is in your go bag. Can you explain it to me?
Okay, we've been talking about getting power for various reasons and from various sources. Here's one of the interesting things. Power that comes from generators, power that comes from all sorts of irregular kinds of sources can be dirty, can be nasty, and all the devices we're talking about carrying with us won't do any good if the first time we plug them in, we manage to fry them within the first 2 or 3 minutes. So I chose this little Belkin 3-prong adapter that is a surge suppressor, got some mild power conditioning, couple of USB ports, 3 AC ports, and it makes sure that when you're using your generator or your neighbor's generator or the power tapped off a pole somewhere, that power is going to be reasonably clean when it gets your devices. Keeps those devices lasting longer, living more happily, and serving your needs right on through the apocalypse.
You know, I get it now. When I first saw that on the list, I was wondering if maybe you just threw that up, but it does make sense if we're going to be powering our devices after the apocalypse, especially with some of these makeshift ways of getting power. It would be perfectly fine to have a lightweight device that both gives us surge protection and maybe a little bit of power reproduction. I like it. All right, so we go from surge protectors to, next up on the list, Mr. Allyn, what do you got?
So you're going to need some tools.
Nice.
Just saying, right? So if you happen to have, a Swiss Army knife that has a couple tools on it, it might be handy, right? That model, I think, is the Handyman model.
What tool does that not have? I think that's the easier question.
I don't know. It's got their stuff on the other side, and I didn't even pull it all out. Okay, but along the lines of the same company, in case all your gadgets are actually working, there's another Swiss Army knife tool.
Yes.
That's you could pull all your really important stuff on. This one I think is like 16 gig, and in case the zombies get their hands on it and you don't want them getting your secure data, it actually has a fingerprint scanner integrated into it, which you would swipe your finger over, and that's what unlocks the encryption on it.
I actually got one of those at CES a few years back, and I believe it had like an 8 gig USB stick on it, and it had a simple knife, a pair of scissors, and then toothpicks.
Yep. That it does.
Couldn't quite figure
and this
out
one,
the combo.
in case you're giving training on anti-zombie stuff, it actually has a laser pointer and up and down buttons. It syncs over Bluetooth with whatever your laptop is, and you can hit the up-down buttons and flip through your presentation.
That's actually important. I've heard that zombies are allergic to red lasers and Bluetooth. So
yes, exactly.
This is, that's, again, zombie apocalypse, not way to think. Curtis, over to you. You've got something that breaks from your the previous gadgets that you've brought up in the previous rounds. Exactly what is the Recon Google mod? I'm sorry.
Audrey,
did I say Curtis? I meant Oliver.
Oh. Yeah, that's
sorry,
that's me,
that was
dude.
a brain fart.
So, admittedly, for the Sandy Superstorm, this has no practical value whatsoever. But for the zombie apocalypse, and I know Brian knows I've been bugging him about building something like this. I want a heads-up display for use on my motorcycle. But if you have it for the zombies, I'm sure I can modify it to run off my bike, and then which I will be using to get the hell away from the zombies. But also the apps on the heads-up display, I'm pretty sure I can mod them to tell me where the zombies are, how many are chasing me, and how far I have to get to be safe. I love that thing.
What exactly? So it's for bike riders, right?
No, it's for skiers. It's for extreme skiers currently. Apparently, you can mod those goggles to show you things like flying distance or height, and then something about GPS, tell you where you are, which I guess is for hiking. But I want to see a motorcycle control version of this. That would just rock my world.
Not bad. So, I mean, if you are running from the crowd of zombies after the zombie apocalypse, or even if you're scouring the desert wasteland, the GPS satellites will probably still be in orbit. This device could give you some invaluable information about where you are on the planet. Is that what we're looking? All right. All right. So, same question to our distinguished panel. We've got 5 gadgets here. We've got the cook with just about anything stove. We've got the Xeris array for your temporary telecom needs. We've got a Belkin Mini Search Protector. We've got Allyn's crazy set of tools. And we've got Oliver's, we'll call it a Rainbow 6 goggles.
There you go.
Okay, let's start with you, Cheebert. What are the 3 that you're going to pack in your go bag?
Well, my BioLite stove is already there. I actually do have some Swiss Army knife, however you pronounce that silly name. Already have those. I have several of them. And, you know, that Recon Google mod, that does sound pretty cool, especially if I can go and put in low light applications so I can see the zombies coming. Because we all know zombies don't put out body heat, so infrared's not going to work.
Nice, nice. Curtis, over to you. What are your 3 picks?
Oh, I'm probably going to go with Cheebert's BioLite stove. I'll take Allyn's toolkit, and I'm going to hang on to my mini surge suppressor, because if I've got any of these electronic devices, I want to keep them to keep working.
Nice. Allyn, I know you're going to take your Swiss Army knife, but what are the other 2 picks?
That BioLite stove is cool.
Nice.
So that's definitely going in there. And I like the Recon mod, too. You need to figure out who's where and whatnot.
Yeah, especially if you could figure out how to mod it with sort of a friend or foe tag. That'd be nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And over to you, Oliver, your 3 picks for your go bag.
I love the stove. I got to eat, so that's 1. I, too, have a handyman right now, so that's already in my bag. And then, of course, the Recon.
Yeah. You know, I have to say that stove is probably the coolest thing I've seen in the episode so far, so that I'm definitely taking that in my go bag. I'm probably, you know, Allyn, you're right. I'm going to need tools. So a decent Swiss Army knife ain't a bad thing. And I'm going to stick with my Xeris array. I know no one else did, but you know what? I'm a geek enough to want to set up a wide, 3-mile wide perimeter. So
With yourself.
With myself. Well, I mean, come on. I'm assuming that there are going to be people who are going to be alive after the zombie/Earth destroying apocalypse, and they're going to want a place that lets them connect. Even if
zombies may need phones too.
That's right. Zombies need phones.
Yeah, and besides, you're probably going to still have your phone on you because you don't want to lose that tech. And the Wi-Fi symbol is going to magically pop up, and you know that there's going to be people around you.
Exactly. If you see the Wi-Fi symbol pop up on your iPhone, you know there's civilization around. You're going to find me, and then I'm going to eat you. Because I've got a BioLite stuff. All right, let's. I do want to take a break in between segments. We got to talk about our last sponsor. These are the good people who let us continue talking about enterprise tech. And of course, we're going to be talking about GoToMeeting with HD Faces by Citrix. Now, meetings are essential for any business to be successful. You need to talk, to discuss, to discern with your team, with your colleagues, or to make sure that you're on the same page with your clients. But especially in this season, well, with holidays, sick time, and weather insanity hampering our Gangnam-style travel, getting everyone in the same room can be nearly impossible. That's why I use GoToMeeting. It's the powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate with clients and co-workers online, no matter where everyone is. GoToMeeting with HD Faces allows you to share the same screen, making it easier to be on the same page. So, what happens when your team is in a different building, in a different city, or a different country? You could use an audio-connected conference call. You could forsake all nonverbal communication, or you could use GoToMeeting with HD Faces. Of course, that's what I choose because it is the powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate online. Now, I do a podcast called The Book Guys, and it's just been, well, it's fun to do, but the problem is sometimes we're futzing around with different ways to communicate and different ways to collaborate. And our schedule is so wide and varied that oftentimes it's not the easiest thing to get us together. What we found is that using GoToMeeting with HD Faces has really improved the quality of our podcast. And it really encapsulates what makes GoToMeeting so good. We get the verbal communication. We get the easy scheduling. It works on iPads, on iPhones, on Android devices. We can have it on tablets, on Macs or PCs. It goes across platform, and it is just about the easiest thing we've ever used when we've had to communicate. We swear by GoToMeeting, and I know you will too. Here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to try GoToMeeting free for 30 days. Don't wait. For this special offer, right now, visit GoToMeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and use the promo code ENTERPRISE. Remember to use the promo code ENTERPRISE. GoToMeeting, meeting is believing, and we thank Citrix for their support of This Week in Enterprise Tech. Now, good geeks, we're going to the last round of the Go Bag for the Apocalypse. Cheebert, you've got a little something I think I might be able to demo for you. Exactly what is your last item for the bag?
Well, the batteries are running down. The world is starting to end. But there's still hope. That beacon, the radio beacon telling me about the ship that's off the shore that I need to get to. But if I don't have a way of hearing it, what's the use, right? So I chose the Eaton emergency radio with solar charging. You're demonstrating the one with the crank. I've actually got one in the red one with the handle that's a PV cell. So I can plug it in. I can crank the radio. I have AM, I have FM, I have weather band, and I have shortwave in mine. And that way I can hear what's going on. Yeah, Jason's got the thing up. It's a great radio. It is actually in my hurricane preparedness kit because I don't want to have to store it with batteries and have them leak all over the place and ruin the radio. I want to be able to go and just charge up the system based on the crank and be able to hear what's going on.
Nice. I like that. And one of the other cool things about the Eaton products is that they have a charging port in the back so that you can actually hand off some power to neighboring devices. I can't remember if that version supports USB devices.
Yeah, mine does. And I've actually tried to charge up a phone, and boy, does your arm get tired. But, in a disaster, there's nothing else to do.
So you might as well. So what you're saying, in the post-apocalyptic world, we're all going to have radio, and we're going to have freakishly large arms.
Yeah, I think so.
I like this. Okay. My last entry, and I'm kind of cheating, a little bit like Allyn did. Well, it's actually a combo set. I want to bring this, my Acer S7 Note Ultrabook, and my Supertooth Disco wireless speaker. Now, yes, these are very cool products. They last a crazy long time. I can actually power this this S7 with my Energizer battery, which is already in my my Go bag, for probably a good number of days with reduced power usage. But it's not just for entertainment. It's not just because I find this to be a very cool Windows 8 device. It's not just because, well, I need something to distract me from the end of the world. It's because on this device, I actually have a couple of gigabytes worth of content. Everything from instructional videos on how to make simple tools, how to do first aid, how to do simple surgeries, how to basically rebuild society. So if there is a zombie apocalypse, if it's something that destroys most of the population but leaves the planet more or less intact, I have a tool that allows me to get a head start in rebuilding. Now, one of the things that we talked about on TWiT before is how we can get to this point at which we don't really understand the technology on which we live. You need something like a laptop with that information and a wireless speaker system so you can actually hear what's going on, so that when you are alone, when you are surrounded by zombies, well, you could bring up a tutorial on how to create iron weaponry. And that's my choice for my my last entry into the Go bag. Curtis, I don't even know how to describe this next set of gear that you have in your Go bag, so I'm just going to let you go. Oh, you're muted.
Okay, the first three things are a little similar to yours. I mean, it's my MacBook, my iPad, my iPhone, stuff that I'll use and as long as I can, just because it makes me happy. But the final thing is something that makes civilization possible, even in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. I'm talking, of course, about my Spork. Now, this is not just any Spork. This is a heavy-duty survival Spork. We have the spoon. We have the fork. We have the serrated cutting edge. This, my friends, is fine dining in the middle of an apocalypse. I got this one from Cotswold Outfitters in Manchester, England. 2 pounds, 2 pounds well spent in the event of the zombie apocalypse.
Okay, I'll give you the Spork. It's going to be a useful tool. It's better than eating with my hands. But that's not all you got.
Let me see. I'm going down through there. Yeah, like I said, I've got my iPhone, got my iPad, got my MacBook. Why? Because in various ways, these let me communicate. These let me make records of things. These will let me save on and record my final thoughts before the lights dim to their inevitable black. And I think that's important. You've got to keep the hope of civilization and the hope that someday someone will find these records and learn from them. Got to keep that alive.
You know, Curtis, that sounded kind of pessimistic. I think you've been hanging out with Oliver too long. I'm just going to throw that out there. And actually, I'm going to skip Allyn and go straight to Oliver. Oliver, what do you got?
Well, first, there's the jetpack that Brian blew the spoiler on. So I realize it can't fit in the go bag, but it could actually be your go bag, or at least I could hang my go bag off of that thing. It only costs just under $100,000, so I think it's a great value. And what it allows me to do is, if the zombies are getting close, I can just hit that button and I can hop up to a rooftop or someplace else and get away.
And your next item is absolutely crucial.
Yes, I don't know why nobody else did this. If the zombies are there, you're going to need a weapon. So my primary will obviously be a semi-automatic shotgun, but this, the ASP 2000 9mm, is a great backup weapon, right? Something you can tuck in your waistband. Now, the reason I like it, out of all the possible weapons that I see, is, as you can see in that picture, it has a clear window on the grip, because I'll be pumped full of adrenaline as I hose down the zombies. I'm going to lose count of how many rounds I've spent, so this will let me never run out of ammo.
Hey, very, very good. Allyn, the reason why I skipped you is because I knew Oliver was going to bring some handguns into the discussion, and I wanted to end this segment on a knowledge note. So hit me with your last entry.
Okay, so this is hopefully a subset of what is actually on Padre's or mine or any of ours devices as far as reference material. And there's this Foxfire book series a friend of mine told me about a while back, and it's all of the published information on the heritage of the Southern Appalachian Mountains. It's like all of this stuff, and if you go through them, there's stuff like how to make a wheelbarrow, how to carve wood, how to raise cattle, all of this obscure stuff that you're eventually going to have to do once you have no technology left to do anything with. So you'll basically have your little back room at your house that you've built of wood, and it'll have this solar charging station with this book of knowledge in the form of some kind of a laptop that's barely has a battery working anymore. But hey, at least you'll have all that knowledge there that you can then tend to your farm with and keep your family alive.
I love it. I love it. This last round is really, we're diverse. We've taken a lot of different things, a lot of important items, but I'm going to push it to the same question, and we're going to start with you, Cheebert. You got 5 sets of items here. What are the 3 that you put into your go bag?
Actually, I'm going to go back to what is actually in my go bag, and that's my emergency radio. I actually do have a variation on what Curtis has. I actually have a whole bunch of reference material, and I'm definitely going to be adding Allyn's Foxfire collection just as I get off. But I keep it on a Barnes & Noble Nook. Because it's got e-ink, the battery lasts for a very, very long time, and I can leave it open on a page that might have a diagram of how to build something, and it doesn't require any power until I turn the page. So that way I can get a lot of life out of it. And because the battery is so small, I should be able to go and use it through the apocalypse. While I would love that jetpack, unfortunately, Oliver, that requires water, which might work really well in Hawaii. But I think more useful to me is going to be that 9mm pistol.
Nice. Okay. So you've got a nice little diversity there. Let's go to Oliver. Oliver, since you're the one who brought out the heat, what items other than your handgun are you going to put in your go bag?
You got to mention the handgun, dude. That's like crucial.
Oh, I'm
right?
down with it. I'm down with it.
I do like the Foxfire books. I will take that. I will not take your S7, and I definitely don't want to get hurt near you if you have to look up first aid while I'm bleeding out. I don't like that at all. So I'm going to go with the emergency radio with solar charging as my 3rd one.
All right. Allyn, over to you. What are your 3 picks?
I'll take my books, Curtis's Spork, and Cheebert's radio.
Pacifist. I like this. This is nice. You didn't take the handgun. You're just assuming that your Swiss Army knife will be all the defense you need.
Yes, there's got to be a gun in here somewhere. I don't know.
Okay.
A few days with zombies, you'll be taking a handgun.
That's right. Curtis, over to you. What are your 3 items?
Number 1 is the Spork. Number 2 is going to be the Foxfire. I actually have half a dozen of the Foxfire books. Really interesting. Oddly enough, written by a high school. This was a project that an English teacher put together. High school students went and interviewed people up in the mountains around Rabun Gap, Georgia. Really good reading for anyone who wants to learn about the old ways of doing things. And I am going to go with firearms, although I'll take my collection over that wimpy see-through thing that Oliver threw in.
Bite me!
Hey, Padre.
Yes, Allyn.
So I'll pull a favor for all of us at the very, very end, and I'll get us all onto one of these.
That's right. That's right. If Allyn's got a submarine that we can all take our go bags onto, I don't really need to worry about the fence, right?
No.
Okay. So, Allyn, we've got your promise when the Armageddon does come. So on December 21st, as the world is coming to an end, we're all going to load into a Los Angeles class?
Trident, more roomy.
Trident class. Okay, good. I'll take a tube. Fantastic. You know, for me, I have to say this is going to go against character. I would take the handgun if it was a zombie apocalypse, just because then I could get my gun on. But I'd take silver bullets just in case it's also a vampire apocalypse. So you got to think that way. And of course, I'd bring my information system with my end of the world books. And you know what? I was thinking about the Spork, but I'm Filipino and we're used to eating with our hands. So I'm probably going to take Cheebert's emergency radio with solar charging.
Of course, if it's a vampire apocalypse, you're dead because they're not the ones who die from silver bullets. That's werewolves.
Oh, dang.
Oops.
See, this is why I didn't watch that movie Priest, because I don't want to see what my job evolves to in the future. I wouldn't be very good at it. Never mind. All right, so that's the end of our 4 segments of Apocalypse. Now, hopefully you've seen that, yes, this is a bit of fun. We do see what gadgets we have for disaster preparedness. But, you know, aside from Apocalypse, a lot of these gadgets and gizmos are good for best practices, just things that you should have ready to go in case you do have an emergency. And more than that, hopefully this has given you ideas for gift ideas for that special geek in your family. Now, before we go, I do want to thank our panelists for coming on and for just humoring me with some really, really fun discussion here. Let's start with you, Cheebert. What do you want our audience to know about? What do you want them to go to? What's going on with the Geek in Paradise?
The Geek in Paradise is going to be dealing with air conditioning. And what I'd really like people to consider is, is there a better way of cooling your data centers? If you live in the northern climes, you know, there's an awful lot of free cooling days. So maybe you might want to consider putting a condenser loop into your data center. If you live someplace hot like me, maybe those options aren't so good. But managing where you place your rack so that you can keep your hot and cold air from mixing makes a pretty big difference. And it doesn't cost a whole lot of money. It's just time. So make your air conditioning more efficient, because maybe, just maybe, we can use a lot less energy and produce a lot less carbon, and maybe we can postpone the zombie apocalypse, because we all know the zombies are caused by overdosing on carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, right?
Of course. Well, I've read that in many audiobooks. Okay, Curtis, over to you. What are the important things going on at Enterprise Efficiency? Aside from, I must commend you on an incredible episode of Gadgetry last Wednesday.
You know, Padre, our E2 radio episode last week, we had this fabulous guest who really did make the whole thing just a spectacular success. Folks really should go and listen to that in the archived version. This week, we're here in Austin, Texas at Dell World. We'll be listening to keynotes from people like former President Bill Clinton and the Freakonomics guys. Will be live blogging those. Next week, we're going to be racing into the holidays. Bunch of E2 radio episodes, just getting ready for the end of the year, and a lot of exciting stuff coming up for 2013. Now, we'd love to have some of the TWiT crew come over and join us. It's a great community that would be even better with some of the TWiT wisdom in there.
Oliver, over to you. What's going on with InfoWorld? What you're writing, what you're working on, what stories are you going to be able to break?
Well, I'm once again trying to get a free trip to visit Brian. So I'm working hard to get a private cloud comparative review going. That's going to be a honking test. We're going to try to get the major vendors in there, because it's going to include VMware and Microsoft, who both already said that they'd be interested. And then we'll see, I'm sure one or two of the OpenStack vendors are going to show up too.
Fantastic. And finally, off to one of my favorite storage people, really, Allyn Malventano. What's going on with you? What do you want us to know about?
Well, you can read all my stuff over at PC Perspective. That's pcper.com. We've brought on a new editor recently that's actually up your alley, Padre, which is this guy Chris. He's been writing he does our wireless and our networking gear review specifically, and he's doing a 5-part series on cutting the cord, basically walking you through how to build your own home theater PC and stuff like that. So good stuff.
Fantastic. I do want to make one quick note here. We've got a couple of people in the chat realm who are going to be updating show notes for us. For now, we're going to be putting them onto my blog site, thetechstop.net. So if you go to thetechstop.net/TWiT, at least by the time this episode is released, not only will you be able to get all the show notes, but you'll also be able to get the links to all the gadgets that we just talked about. In fact, I'm working with someone right now so that you could make your own choices out of each round to find out what would go in to your apocalypse bag. Also, did you know that you could subscribe? I know a good number of you are just downloading as you go, and you know what? I love you. Thank you very much for doing that. But why go through that trouble each and every single week? Because we are a weekly podcast. Why not go to twit.tv/TWiT, where you'll be able to find all the different ways that this great content can be automatically delivered to your device of choice. If you got an iPad, an iPhone, an Android phone, a Zune, whatever it might be, you can choose the feed to get TWiT into your device so you can listen to us each and every single week. Also, if you are watching this or listening to this, did you know that we make several different versions? We've got an audio-only version. We've got a standard definition video version. We've got a high-definition version. Find the one that works for you so that you can listen to us in the car on the way to work and then maybe settle down with a loved one and geek out about the enterprise. Also, while you're subscribing, why not follow me on Twitter? You can find me at twitter.com/PadreSJ. There you'll be able to find out what the Digital Jesuit is doing in the real world, and you'll be able to suggest topics for future episodes, just like this was a topic that came up just a few months ago. You can also watch the show live, because we do shoot live every Monday noon. And if you watch live, you got to be part of the chat room, because the chat room is something that makes TWiT special, because we're not just a network, we're a temporary community. I do want to thank everyone here in the Brick House who made this possible. Our fantastic TD, Jason Howell, Karsten, who is our super producer, and again, all of our guests. Join us next week when we're going to be doing the first annual Q&A. And, well, remember, if you want to know what's going on in the enterprise, just keep TWiT.